If you ever wondered what a creature from another world would look like on Earth, you need only turn your gaze to the octopus. Its body is a sack of soft muscle, its skin a living canvas, and its mind spreads through 10 arms that explore, taste, and solve problems as if each were an independent thinker. In the quiet depths of the ocean, this 8-legged wonder moves with a grace that feels almost alien, a reminder that intelligence can arise far from the familiar shape of a brain. Octopuses belong to the cephalopod class, a group that includes cuttlefish and squids, and they sit at the pinnacle of invertebrate cognition. Unlike the slow-moving snails or static clams that dominate the mollusk family, octopuses navigate coral reefs, kelp forests, abyssal plains, and rocky shores with equal facility. Their distribution mirrors the planet's own diversity. Some species stretch to the size of a dinner plate, while others shrink to the length of a fingernail. Yet every form carries the same fundamental toolkit: flexible limbs, a siphon for jet propulsion, and skin capable of astonishing transformation. The ability to vanish in an instant is more than a party trick. It is a survival strategy honed over hundreds of millions of years. Specialized cells called chromatophores expand and contract under direct neural control, allowing the animal to match the color, texture, and even the three-dimensional relief of surrounding rock, sand, or seaweed. In the same breath, a startled octopus can flatten its body, puff up its mantle, and spray a cloud of ink, a chemically scented veil that confuses predators and buys precious seconds to slip away through a gap no larger than its eye. What truly sets the octopus apart, however, is the architecture of its nervous system. While most animals concentrate the majority of their neurons in a central brain, an octopus houses roughly half of its 500,000 nerve cells in the cords of each arm. Those arms can taste a morsel, remember its shape, and execute a finely tuned movement without consulting the central brain. Experiments have shown individuals opening jars, assembling puzzles, and navigating mazes, behaviors that parallel the problem-solving abilities of birds and mammals, yet arise from a completely different evolutionary pathway. Scientists peer into this bizarre parallel with a mixture of awe and unease. How does a creature whose lineage diverged from vertebrates before the first fish ever swam develop cognition that rivals the primate mind? What does its unique brain-arm partnership reveal about the fundamental requirements for thought? The answers lie buried deep in the fossil record, where the story of the octopus begins more than 500 million years ago, long before dinosaurs roamed the land and long before mammals warmed the night. The earliest cephalopods were modest, shelled dwellers that clung to the seafloor, protected by hard external shells resembling tiny spiraled forts. These ancestors moved slowly, relying on the weight of their armor for defense. Over time, a dramatic shift occurred. Roughly 140 million years ago, the lineage that would become modern octopuses abandoned the shell, trading protection for unprecedented flexibility. The loss of a hard exterior left them exposed to a world teeming with hungry fish, sharks, and marine reptiles, an environment that would seem fatal for a soft-bodied animal. That very vulnerability sparked a cascade of innovations. Deprived of a shell, the emerging octopus turned to speed, ejecting water through a funnel to dart away in a burst of jet propulsion. It invested in camouflage, sculpting skin that could mimic the light and texture of any substrate. It evolved a beak of chitin, the only hard structure left, capable of cracking shells and crushing prey. Its blood turned blue, infused with copper-based hemocyanin to transport oxygen efficiently in cold, low-oxygen waters. And, perhaps most crucially, it distributed its nervous tissue, allowing each arm to function as a semi-autonomous sensory motor unit. These adaptations are not isolated triumphs. They are interlocking pieces of a survival puzzle. The ability to squeeze through any opening larger than an eye means that no sealed container is truly safe. The ink cloud, composed of melanin and mucus, can impair a predator's senses while the octopus escapes. The three-hearted circulatory system maintains high pressure for rapid jetting, and the regenerative capacity of its limbs ensures that lost arms grow back, often more robust than before. Together, these traits paint a picture of an animal constantly reinventing itself in response to relentless predation. Beyond its own survival, the octopus occupies a pivotal role in marine ecosystems. As a nocturnal hunter, it stalks crabs, fish, and even other cephalopods, shaping the population dynamics of its prey. As prey, it fuels the diets of larger fish, seals, and even cetaceans. Its presence signals a healthy, complex habitat because the very conditions that support an octopus, rich benthic diversity, varied substrates, and abundant shelter, are the hallmarks of thriving oceanic environments. For researchers, the octopus is both a mystery and a mirror. Its brain, unlike any mammalian counterpart, invites fresh perspectives on how intelligence can arise without a centralized cortex. Studying its distributed cognition, rapid learning, and problem-solving strategies may illuminate alternative pathways for neural architecture, offering clues that could one day inform artificial intelligence, neurobiology, and even the search for consciousness beyond Earth. As we watch an octopus unhinge a jar, rearrange a puzzle, and melt into the reef itself, we are reminded that the line between alien and familiar is thinner than we imagined. So the next time a tide rolls in and a curious arm reaches for a hiding crab, ask yourself, what other secrets lie beneath the quiet waves, waiting for a creature without a shell to uncover? The answer may redefine what it means to be intelligent, both on Earth and wherever life might arise elsewhere in the cosmos. Every predator that patrols the open water knows that a soft, boneless animal is an invitation to a quick meal. Yet the octopus evades capture by slipping through openings no larger than a single eye. That ability to disappear into the tiniest fissure, to vanish from a shark's line of sight, is a decisive evolutionary edge honed over countless generations. But the real masterpiece lies in the creature's capacity to become invisible long before a predator ever gets close. Before we continue, I'd like to ask you to check if you're subscribed to the channel. YouTube's algorithms often cause even interesting videos to get lost in the recommendation feed, and subscribing is the easiest way to make sure we stay connected. If you enjoy this kind of content, please leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps the channel grow and motivates us to create new videos more often. Now, let's continue. When you watch an octopus in motion, the transformation is almost theatrical. In a heartbeat, the animal can shift from a mottled brown of a rocky reef to the vivid emerald of swaying kelp. In slow motion, the change ripples across its supple skin, a cascade of color that spreads like a tide across a shoreline, while the texture of its surface remolds itself to mirror the surrounding seaweed and coral. In the blink of an eye, the creature is no longer a moving silhouette, but a perfect patch of the ocean floor. That dazzling disguise is not a simple pigment swap. It is a layered optical orchestra conducted by an extraordinarily sophisticated set of cells embedded in the skin. The most visible players are the chromatophores, tiny pigment-filled sacs scattered across the surface like freckles. Each sac holds a minute amount of pigment, black, red, or yellow, that sits behind a ring of radial muscle fibers. When the muscles contract, the sac expands, pulling pigment outward and flooding the skin with a bright hue. When the muscles relax, the sac collapses, concealing its color beneath the surrounding tissue. By coordinating the expansion of individual sacs, the octopus can paint bands, stripes, or spots that instantly mimic a fragment of rock, a piece of coral, or a strand of kelp. But the palette does not stop at 3 basic colors. Beneath the chromatophores lies a second layer of cells known as iridophores. These ultra-thin structures contain stacks of the protein reflectin, which act like microscopic mirrors. By adjusting the spacing between the stacks, the iridophores can reflect specific wavelengths of light, generating shimmering blues and greens that dance across the animal's body. Below the iridophores, a third reflective layer, called leucophores, scatters ambient light, producing soft white tones that blend the creature seamlessly into brighter surroundings. The combined output of chromatophores, iridophores, and leucophores gives the octopus a palette as dynamic as any painter's, capable of reproducing the exact hue, brightness, and sparkle of the environment in a single fluid stroke. The final secret to the octopus's camouflage is texture. Specialized skin structures called papillae can raise and lower tiny ridges and bumps at the animal's command. By inflating or deflating these papillae, the octopus reshapes its skin topography, softening its outline and adding the 3-dimensional detail that makes a flat color pattern convincing. When a reef's surface is rough and uneven, the animal can replicate that roughness, breaking a predator's ability to detect a smooth silhouette against a complex background. In this way, the octopus does not merely blend in, it disappears into the very fabric of the seafloor. Each element of this camouflage system is a response to relentless pressure, the constant threat of sharks, dolphins, and other voracious hunters. The loss of a protective shell forced the ancestors of modern octopuses to invent speed, stealth, and intelligence at the same time. Jet propulsion provides rapid escape, while the flexible body permits entry into any crevice that offers shelter. The distributed nervous system, with half of the animal's nerve cells residing in each arm, allows instantaneous sensory processing and motor response without waiting for a central brain. Together with the camouflage arsenal, these adaptations form an interlocking survival network where every advantage reinforces the next. The consequences of this network ripple through the marine ecosystem. As a nocturnal hunter, the octopus stalks crabs, fish, and even other cephalopods, regulating the abundance of its prey and shaping the community structure of the benthic world. As prey, it sustains larger predators, bigger fish, seals, and some whales, linking the lower and upper tiers of the food chain. Its presence signals a rich, heterogeneous habitat. The same diversity of substrates and shelters that enable an octopus to hide also supports countless other organisms, making the octopus both a beneficiary and an indicator of ocean health. For scientists, the octopus's camouflage is a living laboratory of optical physics and neural control. The precise timing with which pigment sacs expand, reflective layers shift, and skin texture rearranges is orchestrated by rapid neural commands that travel through the arm nerves directly to the skin. Understanding how a decentralized nervous system produces such coordinated, high-resolution changes could reshape our ideas about brain architecture, offering fresh models for artificial vision systems and adaptive materials. It also raises profound questions about the evolution of intelligence. How a creature without a centralized cortex can solve complex problems, remember visual scenes, and execute elaborate motor plans. When the animal lifts an arm to probe a hidden crab, its skin may flash a burst of iridescent blue, then settle into a mottled brown as papillae rise to match a nearby rock. In those seconds, the octopus has turned itself from a conspicuous target into a piece of the seafloor, buying the precious time needed to snatch its meal and retreat. Each successful concealment is a quiet victory over the ever-watchful predators that dominate the ocean's surface. The next time a tide rolls in and a curious arm reaches for a hiding crab, pause and consider the intricate choreography of colors, light, and texture that makes the octopus a master of disguise. Behind that fleeting flash of brilliance lies a story of relentless adaptation, a testament to how life can reinvent itself when the odds are stacked against it. And as we unravel each layer of this camouflage, we move closer to answering the deeper mystery. What other hidden talents await discovery in the shadows of the sea? The ocean's most relentless hunters, sharks, dolphins, and other visual predators, patrol the waterway by honing in on sharp edges and sudden breaks in the scenery. A single stray line or a flicker of color can betray a hidden fish, a scuttling crab, or a vulnerable cephalopod. The octopus, however, has turned that very reliance on visual contrast into its greatest advantage, shattering the predator's search pattern with a living kaleidoscope that can vanish in an instant. Every step an octopus takes across the reef is a split-second appraisal of light, texture, and movement. It does not wait for a cautious pause. It constantly rewrites its own silhouette. In a single observation, a lone octopus was seen reshaping its camouflage 177 times within the span of 1 hour, a testimony to a decision-making rhythm that rivals the speed of a heartbeat. What makes this feat truly astonishing is the sheer velocity of the transformation. From the moment the animal senses a shift in its surroundings, the skin can remodel its appearance in as little as 200 milliseconds. A flicker that is as swift as the quickest human blink. Yet the octopus accomplishes this despite a fundamental limitation. Like many of its cephalopod cousins, it lacks true color vision. The paradox of a colorblind creature reproducing the exact hues of coral and rock has puzzled scientists for decades. The breakthrough came in 2015, when researchers uncovered a hidden visual network embedded directly within the animal's skin. Genes that code for photoreceptor proteins are active not only in the eyes, but also in the epidermis. When a strip of skin was detached from the body and exposed to light, the embedded chromatophores altered their size, swelling or shrinking in direct response to the illumination. This experiment proved that the octopus can sense light through its skin, turning every inch of its mantle into a distributed eye. That discovery also illuminated a pivotal chapter in the octopus's evolutionary story. Roughly 140 million years ago, ancestral mollusks shed their hard shells, abandoning the protective armor that had shielded them for eons. In the wake of that loss, a large, sophisticated brain and an expansive nervous system emerged, forging a new alliance between mind and mantle. The skin's light-sensing genes and the burgeoning brain evolved hand in hand, creating a seamless feedback loop that lets the animal translate a fleeting photon into a coordinated burst of pigment and iridescence. The speed of this feedback loop owes much to the way the octopus commands its color cells. Unlike the chameleon, whose hue shifts depend on hormones that must travel through the bloodstream, a process that can exceed 20 seconds, the octopus fires neural impulses straight to its chromatophores. Electrical signals travel along the arm nerves, reaching the skin in a flash, and prompting the pigment sacs to expand or contract at a pace measured in fractions of a second. Because the control is neural rather than hormonal, the color change can be both voluntary and reflexive, much like the act of breathing or blinking in humans. An octopus may deliberately flash a burst of brilliant blue to startle a nearby predator, yet the same circuitry can also trigger an involuntary shift when a sudden shadow passes overhead. This dual capacity springs from a nervous system that, while as extensive as that of vertebrates, distributes its processing nodes across the arms, allowing local sensory input to be acted upon without waiting for a central command center. The result is a living camouflage that is not merely a static coat of paint, but a dynamic, self-adjusting shield that reacts to the ever-changing play of light and shadow on the sea floor. As we move deeper into the octopus's sensory world, the next chapter will reveal how this lightning-quick adaptation fuels its predatory tactics, letting the creature strike with the element of surprise that its own invisibility creates. Imagine a creature whose nervous system rivals that of many mammals, a mantle of light-sensing skin, and arms that can think for themselves. The common octopus carries roughly 500 million nerve cells throughout its body. By comparison, humans possess about 100 billion, and most invertebrates count only a few tens of thousands. Yet octopuses sit in the same neuronal range as cats, dogs, and even parrots, outpacing every other mollusk by orders of magnitude. Only a third of those 500 million neurons sit within the central brain. The overwhelming majority are scattered along the 8 flexible limbs, each arm housing a dense network of ganglia, sensory receptors, and motor neurons. This unusual arrangement blurs the line between brain and body, granting the octopus a form of distributed cognition that allows it to process information locally, without routing every signal back to a central command center. In practical terms, the animal can sense a change in water pressure on a fingertip of an arm and react within fractions of a second, while the rest of the body continues its own routine. Beyond the fascination of its shifting skin, the octopus's neural architecture is reshaping how biologists think about intelligence. Because each arm can act semi-autonomously, experiments have shown that a severed tentacle can still solve simple puzzles, such as navigating a maze of tubes, long after it has been detached from the body. This ability hints at a form of embodied cognition, where the body itself participates in processing, rather than merely executing commands from a central brain. Researchers hope that by decoding the molecular pathways that link the skin's photoreceptors to the arm-based motor circuits, they may design flexible robots that sense their environment through their outer surface and react without a central processor. Such skin-first designs could prove invaluable in underwater exploration, where traditional sensors are vulnerable to pressure and corrosion. Moreover, the octopus's rapid color-changing system is inspiring new materials that alter their optical properties on command, potentially leading to adaptive camouflage for military and civilian applications. Each discovery reinforces a simple truth. Evolution, when pressed by relentless predation, can produce solutions that rival human engineering in elegance and efficiency. In the wild, the octopus's ability to vanish and reappear also shapes the behavior of its prey and predators. Crabs learn to hide under stones when the silhouette of a predator appears, while fish often gather in schools that move erratically to confuse a potential hunter. The octopus, by inserting itself into these visual games, can exploit moments of chaos to ambush unsuspecting victims. Its predation pressure helps maintain a balance, preventing any single species from dominating the reef community. Conversely, the presence of a skilled camouflager can deter some predators from frequenting a particular patch of reef, creating micro-habitats where more timid species can thrive. Thus, the octopus functions as both a sculptor and a sentinel of biodiversity, its hidden talents echoing through the food web. The functional outcome of this architecture is astonishing. For decades, researchers observed that a severed arm could still curl, grasp, and respond to a probe long after being detached from the head. Recent work has begun to quantify just how autonomous those limbs truly are. In a landmark study, scientists filmed an octopus in a clear tank as it explored a cluttered field of objects and hunted for hidden morsels. Using sophisticated video analysis, they tracked the motion of each arm frame by frame, looking for patterns that would indicate coordinated direction from the brain versus independent decision-making. The results revealed a striking split. Some arms moved in perfect synchrony, their motions clearly guided by a central command. Matters acted on their own, veering toward a piece of kelp or a shimmering shell without awaiting instruction. The researchers concluded that sensory information from the surrounding water could bypass the brain entirely, entering the local neural circuitry of the arm and prompting an immediate response. This autonomous processing explains how an octopus can navigate complex environments, rearrange its posture, and manipulate objects with a fluidity that seems almost human. The autonomy of the suckers and arms is only one side of the story. The skin itself is a living sensor, capable of detecting light and adjusting color without any input from the brain. When a photon strikes the mantle, specialized cells called chromatophores receive the signal directly, expanding or contracting pigment sacs in an instant. This dual system of distributed neural control and skin-based photoreception creates a feedback loop that is both rapid and adaptable. The animal can flash a brilliant blue as a warning, blend seamlessly into a coral reef, or produce a mottled pattern that mimics the sandy floor, all within the blink of an eye. What makes this capability extraordinary is its speed. Neural impulses traveling along the brachial nerves reach the chromatophores in a fraction of a second, far faster than the hormonal cascades that drive color change in reptiles such as chameleons. Because the signal pathway is electrical rather than chemical, the octopus can toggle its camouflage voluntarily, much like a human can decide to turn on a light, while also retaining the reflexive ability to react to sudden shadows or predators without conscious thought. The evolutionary roots of this system run deep. Roughly 140 million years ago, ancient mollusks shed their hard shells, abandoning the protective armor that had sheltered them for eons. In the absence of a shell, a larger, more complex brain evolved, accompanied by an expansive network of nerves that spread into the arms and mantle. The genes that now encode light-sensing proteins in the skin may have originated as extensions of the visual system, allowing the creature to compensate for its limited eyesight by turning every square millimeter of its body into a distributed eye. This partnership between mind and mantle reshaped the octopus's place in the ocean. With a nervous system that can process visual cues, tactile feedback, and chemical signals simultaneously across multiple sites, the animal can execute hunting strategies that depend on surprise and stealth. It can lie in wait, its skin matching the surrounding rocks, while each arm independently probes the substrate for unsuspecting prey. When the moment arrives, a rapid cascade of neural signals triggers a sudden burst of color, a flash of iridescent blue that startles a fish, followed by a lightning-fast strike of the tentacles. The implications of this distributed intelligence extend beyond marine biology. Understanding how an animal can achieve complex, coordinated behavior without a centralized brain offers clues for the design of soft robotics and autonomous machines. Engineers are already looking to octopus arms as models for flexible manipulators that can operate without a single processing unit, instead relying on local sensors and actuators that make split-second decisions. The octopus thus becomes a bridge between biology and technology, a living prototype for future adaptive systems. As we peel back the layers of the octopus's neural architecture, one truth becomes clear. Its brain is not a single organ, but a network that permeates every fiber of its being. This diffuse intelligence allows the animal to survive in a world where predators rely on sharp eyes and sudden movements, while prey hide amidst shifting shadows and swaying kelp. The ability to think with its arms, to sense light through its skin, and to change color in the blink of an eye transforms the octopus from a simple cephalopod into a master of adaptive camouflage and rapid response. The next segment of our journey will follow that very rapid response, revealing how the octopus exploits its lightning-fast skin to ambush unsuspecting prey, turning invisibility into a weapon of surprise. We will uncover the hidden tactics that make this soft-bodied hunter a formidable apex predator in the ever-changing theater of the sea. Hidden beneath the waves, a different lineage of intelligence emerged. One that never walked on land, never grew fur, and never needed a spine to support a towering brain. While our own history traces a single rise of cleverness along the mammalian branch of the vertebrate tree, the ocean tells a parallel tale, an independent birth of cognition in the soft-bodied cephalopods. Imagine the great evolutionary map as a sprawling family portrait. On one side sit the familiar faces of mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fish. A gathering that includes us, our primate cousins, loyal dogs, curious cats, clever dolphins, and the soaring raptors that dominate the skies. All of these creatures share a common forebear, a lizard-like animal that roamed the earth 320 million years ago. That ancestor bore a backbone, 4 sturdy limbs, a distinct head, and a skeletal framework that granted it the support needed for terrestrial life. Its nervous system, centered in a brain tucked beneath the skull, already displayed the basic architecture from which all later vertebrate cognition would sprout. Now trace a different route, far deeper in time, to the flatworm that slipped through the primordial seas 600 million years ago. This creature possessed nothing more than a simple nerve net, a diffuse bundle of fibers that allowed it to respond to touch, but offered no hint of thought, memory, or planning. Yet from that unassuming beginning, a branch diverged that led to the astonishingly agile octopus, the cunning squid, and their myriad relatives. Those branches did not simply grow side by side, they raced ahead of one another. Cephalopods reached the threshold of complex behavior well before the vertebrate line began to experiment with higher cognition. Fossil evidence suggests that the earliest true cephalopods appeared before the first dinosaurs took their first steps, and long before mammals evolved a semblance of sophisticated problem-solving. In this sense, the ocean's pioneers were the planet's first sentient engineers, shaping their world with tools as soft and adaptable as their own bodies. But what does it mean to be intelligent when the creature in question looks nothing like us? Human definitions of intelligence tend to focus on abstract thought, language, problem-solving, memory formation, and the capacity to plan. Psychologists often capture these traits through standardized tests, assigning numerical scores that rank individuals on a scale of cognitive ability. Such assessments draw on our own sensory modalities, vision, hearing, language, and on the assumption that a centralized brain governs all mental activity. An octopus, however, refuses to be measured by those criteria. Its brain, though proportionally large for an invertebrate, occupies only a fraction of its total neural mass. Most of its nerve cells are distributed along its arms, embedded within a web of ganglia that can act without waiting for commands from the central head. Its skin, a living canvas of chromatophores, senses light directly, bypassing the eyes entirely. These features mean that an octopus does not think the way a human does. It solves problems with a mosaic of semi-autonomous modules that operate in concert. Scientists therefore turn to behavior as the ultimate gauge. In laboratory mazes, octopuses navigate tunnels, remember solutions for weeks, and even undo puzzles that would stump most mammals. In the wild, they demonstrate tactical patience. A predator may lie motionless on a coral outcrop, its mantle perfectly matched to the surrounding hue, while each arm independently probes the sand for a hidden crab. When the moment of opportunity arrives, the animal unleashes a flash of iridescent blue, startling the prey, and then snaps its limbs shut with a speed that rivals any vertebrate strike. These observations compel us to rethink the very architecture of intelligence. If a creature can exhibit learning, memory, and purposeful action without a dominant, centrally located brain, then intelligence may be less about size or location and more about the distribution of processing power across a body. The octopus's neural design blurs the line between mind and muscle, suggesting that cognition can arise wherever a network of sensors and actuators exchanges information rapidly enough to influence behavior. The evolutionary consequences are profound. While vertebrates have refined their intellect through a thickened cortex and specialized regions for language, vision, and motor control, cephalopods have pursued a strategy of decentralization. Their arms act as independent agents, each capable of detecting texture, temperature, and chemical cues, and of executing movements without explicit oversight. This distributed approach enables them to adapt to the ever-changing seascape, squeezing through narrow crevices, opening clams with a wrench-like twist, and altering skin patterns in an instant to avoid detection. Understanding this divergent pathway does more than satisfy scientific curiosity. It offers tangible lessons for technology. Engineers crafting soft robotic manipulators look to octopus limbs as a blueprint for devices that can sense, decide, and act locally, without relying on a singular processing hub. In such machines, the logic that once lived in the nervous tissue of a mollusk becomes an algorithmic principle, potentially transforming fields ranging from undersea exploration to medical surgery. Beyond robotics, the octopus's strategy hints at new ways to organize artificial intelligence itself. Traditional AI architectures still rely on a central processor that directs subordinate modules. By mimicking the cephalopod model, embedding miniature processors throughout a robot's body, each capable of short-range decision-making, researchers hope to create systems that are more resilient to damage and better able to respond to sudden, local changes in their environment. The shift from a monolithic brain to a distributed nervous network may prove as revolutionary for machines as it was for the animal kingdom millions of years ago. Ultimately, the story of two independent rises of intelligence invites us to question the limits we place on what a mind can be. The vertebrate lineage, with its upright posture and vocal communication, presents one archetype of cognition. The cephalopod lineage, with its fluid form and skin-deep perception, presents another, one that thrives in darkness, that can vanish in a heartbeat, and that solves problems with the same seamless integration of body and brain that our own nervous system only approximates. As we turn the page toward the next chapter of our journey, we will follow that very integration, how the octopus harnesses its lightning-fast skin to turn invisibility into a weapon of surprise. The question is no longer whether such a creature is intelligent, but how its unique brand of distributed thought reshapes the very definition of intelligence itself. Stay with us as we explore the moment when camouflage becomes offense, and the soft, silent hunter reveals the hidden tactics that make it a formidable apex predator in the ever-changing theater of the sea. Imagine an animal that gathers its own blanket, transports it across the seafloor, and drapes it over itself when night falls. In the crystal-clear shallows off the coast of Australia, a single-veined octopus has turned this odd routine into a signature performance, a behavior that scientists now recognize as one of the most striking examples of tool use in the invertebrate world. To understand why this quiet, 8-armed engineer matters, I spoke with Dr. Jennifer Mather, a professor of psychology at the University of Lethbridge, and scientific advisor for the documentary My Octopus Teacher. Dr. Mather explains that every conventional learning test we devise for octopuses yields a positive result. In maze trials, the animal remembers the location of a hidden exit for weeks, navigating the same corridor with the confidence of a seasoned explorer. In object recognition challenges, it distinguishes a familiar shape from a novel one after only a brief glance, showing a capacity for short-term and long-term spatial memory that rivals that of many vertebrates. What is truly astonishing, she says, is that they do not merely learn, they plan. Planning is a term that carries weight in human cognition. It implies the ability to envision a future state, to link a present action with a distant outcome, and to execute a sequence of steps without immediate feedback. In the wild, the coconut-carrying octopus, Amphiooctopus marginatus, demonstrates each of these components. The creature leaves an open sandy patch, scans the surrounding reef, and selects two halves of a discarded coconut that are just the right size to enclose its body. It then maneuvers these cumbersome shells across the substrate, sometimes covering a distance that would require several minutes of effort for a similarly sized fish. When the tide recedes and a predator threatens, the octopus lifts the shells, folds them together, and tucks its soft body inside, creating a mobile den that conceals it from sight. The act of transporting a shelter to a future safe spot is more than a clever trick. It is a behavioral innovation that reshapes the animal's relationship with its environment. In habitats where rocky crevices are scarce, the octopus invents a portable refuge, expanding the range of places it can call home. By moving the shells ahead of time, the animal also demonstrates foresight, an ability to project an upcoming need and to act in advance, a cognitive step that most researchers once thought reserved for primates and certain birds. The very fact that the octopus must carry the shells against the pull of current, assess the curvature of each half, and later assemble them without assistance, underscores an internal representation of future scenarios. Beyond the coconut episode, octopuses excel in a suite of memory and problem-solving tasks that illuminate the breadth of their intellect. In laboratory settings, individuals have been observed removing tightly fitting lids from glass jars, unscrewing opaque containers, and solving multi-step puzzles that require the sequential use of tools. Their success does not rely on trial and error alone. After an initial failure, they often modify their approach, suggesting an ability to adjust strategies based on previous outcomes. In field observations, researchers have recorded octopuses that memorize the positions of concealed prey for days, returning to the exact spot after a tide change to claim a meal that other predators have missed. A less obvious yet equally telling facet of octopus cognition is play. In Dr. Mather's own experiments, common octopuses were presented with a variety of objects, plastic bottles, shells, cords, and given the freedom to explore without a reward. The animals spent considerable time manipulating the items, pulling them apart, rearranging them, and even arranging a series of pebbles into patterns. They behave like a 5-year-old child, Dr. Mather remarks, testing the limits of their own bodies, gathering information, and seemingly doing it for the sheer pleasure of discovery. This exploratory drive, coupled with their capacity for novelty, hints at an intrinsic motivation that fuels learning, independent of external incentives. The marine stage itself amplifies the significance of these behaviors. Underwater, visual cues shift with the dance of sunlight. Chemical signals drift on currents, and predators can appear within a heartbeat. An octopus's skin, a living canvas of chromatophores, not only provides camouflage, but also serves as a sensory organ, detecting ambient light and color directly. This integration of perception and action means that the animal can respond to a changing environment without routing every signal through a central brain. Instead, each arm, embedded with its own ganglia, processes tactile, temperature, and chemical information locally, allowing rapid, autonomous adjustments. The result is a distributed nervous system where cognition and motor control intertwine seamlessly. This decentralized architecture reshapes our definition of intelligence. Traditional metrics emphasize the size and centralization of the brain, equating larger, cortex-rich structures with higher mental capacity. Octopuses overturn that assumption. With a brain roughly the size of a walnut, but a total neural mass comparable to that of a small vertebrate, they achieve complex behaviors through parallel processing across their limbs. The network operates as a series of semi-autonomous modules, each capable of learning, remembering, and executing tasks, yet coordinated by the central brain when overarching goals emerge. The implications of this distributed mind extend far beyond the ocean floor. Engineers designing soft robotic manipulators study the octopus's arms to create devices that sense pressure, decide locally, and move without a singular controller. In such machines, the logic that once lived in molluscan tissue becomes an algorithmic principle, promising new capabilities for underwater exploration, disaster response, and even minimally invasive surgery. Likewise, artificial intelligence researchers are re-examining the prevailing model of a single processing hub, exploring architectures that embed miniature decision-makers throughout a system, just as an octopus embeds its intelligence in every arm. As we move toward the next chapter of this story, we turn our focus to the very skin that makes the octopus invisible. When danger approaches, the animal does not merely hide. It unleashes a flash of iridescent blue that startles predators, then folds its borrowed coconuts around itself with lightning speed. This transformation from camouflage to offense exemplifies how a distributed nervous system can turn perception into a weapon in an instant. Stay with us as we follow the moment when the octopus's living cloak becomes a decisive strike, revealing the hidden tactics that make this soft, silent hunter a formidable apex predator in the ever-changing theater of the sea. Why does this matter beyond academic curiosity? Engineers designing soft robotic manipulators have turned to octopus arms as a living prototype. By embedding sensors and actuators throughout a flexible structure, they aim to create machines that can sense pressure, temperature, and texture at every point, making decisions locally rather than relying on a single onboard computer. Such robots could navigate the cluttered interiors of shipwrecks, perform delicate surgeries, or harvest resources from the deep sea with a dexterity that mirrors their biological counterpart. The principles distilled from octopus neurobiology, distributed processing, modular control, and embodied cognition are already influencing the next generation of adaptive machines. The broader evolutionary narrative also gains new depth. While vertebrates pursued a path of increasing brain mass and specialization, cephalopods explored an alternative route, a body where the line between mind and muscle blurs, where every tentacle can think for itself. This divergence illustrates that intelligence is not a single ladder, but a branching tree, with multiple viable strategies for solving the universal problem of survival. In the ever-shifting theater of the ocean, such flexibility has proved indispensable, allowing octopuses to slip through narrow fissures, pry open the toughest shells, and disappear in a flash of iridescent color. As we follow the octopus's next move, we will witness how its rapid changing skin becomes more than a shield. It becomes a weapon. When threatened, the animal can unleash a sudden burst of bright blue, startling a predator long enough to execute a swift strike with its arms. This seamless fusion of camouflage and offense encapsulates the core mystery that drives our inquiry. What does it mean for a brain to be scattered across a body? And how does that shape the very nature of thought? Stay with us as we dive deeper into the moment where invisibility turns into aggression, and the soft, silent hunter reveals the hidden tactics that crown it a supreme apex predator in the restless sea. Imagine a solitary cephalopod tucked into a quiet aquarium, its skin flickering with the soft glow of filtered light. Suddenly, a floating bottle drifts across the surface, tugged by a gentle current from the room's water intake pump. The creature's eyes lock onto the object, and in an instant, the quiet laboratory erupts into a subtle drama of curiosity, water, and unexpected play. Play, by definition, is a behavior that is not required for immediate survival, performed intentionally and often repeated for its own sake. It typically emerges when an animal is well-fed, healthy, and free from stress, and it is marked by exaggerated movements and a willingness to explore without an external reward. Researchers, aware of these criteria, designed an experiment to see whether the famously inventive octopus would engage in such activity when the conditions were just right. The setup was deliberately minimal. Each tank contained a single hide, a shelter where the octopus could retreat, and nothing else. Into the water they placed a standard pill bottle, carefully filled so that it floated just below the surface. Unbeknownst to the animal, the aquarium's circulation system produced a steady stream that nudged the bottle along the top of the water, turning it into a moving target that beckoned the octopus's keen senses. 6 individuals were observed over several days. In 2 of the cases, the bottle drifted as intended, and the octopus responded not with a tentative touch, but with a swift, focused jet of water aimed directly at the object. The jet propelled the bottle back toward the intake, where the current caught it and sent it out again. The creature then turned, re-aimed, and repeated the action, as if engaged in a game of catch. A single trial, or a couple of repeats, would have been dismissed as an isolated response, but the pattern that emerged was anything but random. One octopus performed the maneuver 14 times, while another executed it 21 times, each successive jet more precise than the last. The scene resembled a marine version of bouncing a ball, the water jet serving as a makeshift racket that kept the floating bottle in perpetual motion. Beyond the apparent delight of the act, the repetition revealed a deeper function. In many species, play serves to hone motor coordination, to test the limits of the body, and to foster social interaction, establishing rank, learning the rules of group living, and strengthening bonds. Such social dimensions of play are considered almost exclusive to mammals, with a few scattered examples among birds and other vertebrates. The octopus, however, is a solitary predator. It does not form lasting partnerships, nor does it maintain a hierarchy within a community. Its environment is one of individual hunting, camouflage, and solitary exploration. The paradox of a solitary animal displaying a behavior traditionally tied to social contexts forces a re-evaluation of why play evolves at all. For decades, the prevailing explanation for the emergence of complex cognition has been the social intelligence hypothesis. This theory posits that intelligence arose to meet the demands of group living, maintaining intricate, lasting social bonds, navigating deception, cooperating in hunts, and transmitting knowledge across generations. The pressures of a shared world, the need to read the intentions of others, and the benefits of coordinated action are thought to have driven the expansion of brain size and the refinement of cognitive abilities. If intelligent behavior can surface in a creature with no social network, the hypothesis must accommodate alternative pathways. The octopus's play suggests that curiosity and the intrinsic reward of mastering a problem can be sufficient to spark sophisticated mental processes. The act of repeatedly jetting water, watching the bottle glide, and adjusting the force and angle of each thrust demonstrates an internal drive to explore, to test cause and effect, and to experience the sheer pleasure of discovery. This intrinsic motivation, untethered from any need to impress peers or negotiate rank, reshapes our understanding of the roots of intelligence. Moreover, the octopus's distributed nervous system, its brain the size of a walnut, its arms each housing a dense nerve cluster, allows it to process sensory input and execute motor commands locally. In the context of play, this architecture provides a rapid feedback loop. Tactile receptors on the arm sense the water's movement. Ganglia calculate the necessary jet, and the siphon releases a burst of water within milliseconds. The central brain sets the overall goal, maintaining the bottle's motion, but the fine-grained adjustments happen autonomously in each limb. Such a decentralized mode of cognition challenges the notion that a single, large brain is the hallmark of high intelligence. The experimental observations also hint at a broader ecological relevance. In the wild, octopuses must navigate complex reef structures, pry open shells, and escape predatory fish. Mastery of fluid dynamics, honed through playful experimentation, could confer a survival edge when the animal must generate jets to flee or to manipulate objects on a bustling seafloor. The line between play and practice blurs, suggesting that behavior once dismissed as frivolous may in fact be a rehearsal for life-critical actions. Beyond biology, engineers designing soft robotic manipulators look to the octopus's arm as a living prototype, embedding sensors throughout flexible structures to achieve the same kind of localized decision-making. By mimicking this distributed processing, robots could adapt in real time to cluttered, unpredictable environments, whether navigating the wreckage of a sunken ship, performing delicate surgery, or harvesting resources from the deep ocean. The lesson is clear. Intelligence need not be centralized. It can be woven into the very fabric of a machine's body. When we step back to view the history of life on Earth, the octopus appears as a reminder that the story of cognition is not a single linear narrative. Roughly 500 million years ago, during the Ordovician period, the seas teemed with an astonishing variety of invertebrates, and among them, the massive, armored cephalopods rose to dominance. For 360 million years, they ruled the oceans, their fossilized shells bearing witness to an era of unrivaled diversification. Then, as the planet underwent its first great mass extinction, those armored giants vanished, leaving a vacant ecological niche. In the wake of that loss, soft-bodied cephalopods like the modern octopus emerged, reinventing themselves without the protection of a hard shell, but with an upgraded arsenal of behavioral flexibility and neural sophistication. The coexistence of two distinct evolutionary pathways, one anchored in social complexity, the other in ecological challenge, demonstrates that intelligence is not a monolithic trait tied to a single set of circumstances. It can arise wherever the balance of pressures demands it, whether in the tangled hierarchies of primate troops, or in the solitary, predatory dance of a creature that manipulates water itself. Recognizing these multiple roots expands our understanding of cognition and opens the door to yet unimagined forms of intelligence that may thrive in the hidden corners of our planet, or perhaps beyond it. As we continue to explore the depths, each glimpse into the octopus's world, its curious jets, its adaptive arms, its relentless problem-solving, underscores a profound truth. The drive to explore, to test limits, and to master one's environment does not require an audience. It is a fundamental impulse, forged in the crucible of survival, that can blossom into the most intricate forms of thought. The next chapter will reveal how the same neural architecture that powers an octopus's camouflage also enables it to vanish from sight in an instant, turning invisibility into a weapon. Stay with us as we peel back the layers of this silent, soft-bodied hunter and uncover the hidden mechanics that make solitary brilliance possible.